Good evening and welcome to the October 2024 regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to invite a couple of our guests, family to our City Clerk, Leah Jones, Gabriel Reyes and Gabriela Reyes, who go to school in Lebanon, Indiana, to come up to the podium and lead us in the pledge. If everyone could please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both very much. Next on our agenda is reflection, and I'd like to call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. Next, we have approval of minutes tonight. The council has before them two sets of minutes to approve. The first one is the minutes from the special session on Thursday, September 26th. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mayor, I move approval of the minutes of the special session held September 26, 2024.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to let Leah decide who made that motion. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 5-0. Next, we have the minutes from the regular meeting on October 7th. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the minutes from the regular session on October 7th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries 5-0. Next, we have before us appointments. And we have reappointments to several different committees. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I move for the reappointment of William Snyder to the Board of Supervision of Elections for a 4-year term, for William Snyder for Commission of Landlord-Tenant Affairs for a 3-year term, for Mary Jo LaFrance, for a 3-year term to the Historic District, and John Roddy. It says John Roddy to a 3-year term to the Historic District, and Dean Ventola to the Historic District, also for a 3-year term.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. I don't think I see anybody whose name we just called in the room. Okay, so we'll thank them when we see them. But we appreciate their service on our city committees, and we encourage anybody who wants to get involved in the city to consider joining one of our 24 or so city boards, commissions, committees. They all provide valuable recommendations to the mayor and council, and it's a great way to get involved in your city and meet like-minded people. Okay, so there were appointments. Next, we have presentations, and so we're going to be introduced. Darnell, do you want to take this, or do you want me to do it?
I would love for the mayor to do, but I will do it.
Okay, well, we're welcoming our new assistant city attorney, Woayorm Kumazah, and I'm going to get that name. I'm going to work on that name and get it like it's second nature. But
that was actually perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Woayorm, welcome. I'm just going to read this a background, and you can say a few words, and Frank can if he'd like as well. But Woayorm recently graduated from Temple University Beasley School of Law in Philadelphia, but was raised and attended school in Gaithersburg. She is currently awaiting her Maryland bar results within the next few weeks, so fingers crossed there. During law school, she served as a judicial intern for a Pennsylvania Superior Court judge, a legal intern for Esperanza Immigration Legal Services, a student attorney, in the social justice lawyering clinic and a certified legal intern for a professor at the Shower Center for Social Justice. For the city, she will handle document drafting and department advice, participate in the new attorney training program, and work with the city attorneys on specific projects. And I want to open it up to any one of you who'd like to.
Well, before Ms. Kumazah speaks, I just wanted to publicly congratulate her from joining this awesome team. We're small but mighty. And one thing that was very exceptional is that she was unanimously voted, even from the city manager, to come to our great city of Gaithersburg. So we're so excited that she brings her intellect, her energy, and her know-how in the legal profession to bring back to Gaithersburg a student coming back home. And I'll now give it to Ms. Kumazah to speak if the board.
Yes,
council
please,
so
please.
I didn't know
Welcome.
about that unanimous vote, so that's awesome. Yeah, well, I'm really excited to be back. Like you said, I grew up here, so to come back and serve my city is definitely full circle. So I know.
Where'd you go to school?
Gaithersburg High School, Gaithersburg Middle School, Strawberry Knoll Elementary.
We've heard of them. We've heard of
Been
all
all
of them.
around, yeah. So very excited to be back and excited to work with you all.
Excellent. Let's give her a round of applause.
Oh, Frank wants to say something.
Frank wants to speak.
Go ahead, Frank.
Oh, go ahead and take the picture.
Let's take a photo.
I was just going to say, I took her up after the interview, and in the elevator on the way up, she said, "This is just so exciting to have the chance to give back to the community where I was raised." And I thought, that would have been, if you had closed with that, there would be no need to go up in the elevator, because you could probably start today. But anyway, I did share it, so maybe that had something to do with the support. But
Love it. Love it.
welcome.
Thank you.
all so much.
Thank you. Okay, that was wonderful. Next, we have public comments, and this is the time when the mayor and council like to hear from anybody who'd like to speak on a topic that's not a public hearing topic tonight. We do have one public hearing, so if you're here to speak on that, then just hold off. We're going to get to that next. But if you'd like to speak on anything else, this is your time. We ask that you state your name and address or neighborhood for the record. Keep your comments no more than 3 minutes. If you have more than 3 minutes worth of material to deliver, use your 3 minutes and then send us the whole thing in writing. It'll be considered just the same. Do we have anybody here who'd like to speak on any topic? Okay, not seeing anybody in the room. Let me just check our Zoom audience. If anybody on Zoom would like to testify under public comments, just use the raise hand function and I will call on you. Going once, going twice. Okay. All right. Well, we will close public comments for the time being. And we will move into our joint public hearing, and I'll invite members of the Planning Commission to join us up here.
Look at that.
Perfect time.
Just
As if on cue, Matt Hopkins walks in the room right at the right time.
Ryan Spiegel.
Sticker on.
Okay.
Jury's still out.
You're here, Matt. Perfect timing.
Matt. Sorry, I've expanded.
Kirk, take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay. I'm just getting set up here.
Yeah, take your time.
All right. Well, got a little echo going on here. Good evening, Mayor and City Council and Planning Commissioners. This is a joint public hearing on the Spectrum at Watkins Mill Amendment, ASK-9892-2024. And here is a map of the location of the Spectrum at Watkins Mill, and the sketch amendment is proposing several changes to the subject site, which is Block R, and that's shown in that purple hatch area on the map. It's also located at 301 Paramount Park Drive, if you wanted to know the address. So the proposed sketch plan amendment will change several items on Block R. First, it's proposing to remove the age restriction. It also will increase the number of dwelling units from 158 to 244 and increase the height of the building from 6 stories to 7. And there are no other changes proposed to Block R or to the remainder of the Spectrum development. The joint public hearing was advertised in the October 3rd and October 10th issues of the Washington Post and was posted on the city's website beginning on September 23rd, 2024. Signs were posted on the property and notifications were sent to adjacent property owners within 200 feet of the subject site. There are currently 44 exhibits in the record, all of which are included in the meeting packet, and the individual exhibits may be reviewed at City Hall during regular business hours or on the city's website. Any objections to the receipt of any exhibit should be noted prior to the closing of the record. Otherwise, they will be deemed received into evidence. And before the applicant begins their presentation, staff would like to provide an overview of the sketch plan amendment process being used for this application. This, of course, was talked about during the courtesy review as well. So the application ASK-9892-2024 was submitted prior to the adoption of the city's new zoning ordinance, which also is known as Retool Gaithersburg. And so it is following the amendment process from the previous zoning ordinance. And under that prior zoning ordinance, sketch plans could be amended in one of two ways. The first was to just submit an entirely new sketch plan, which would then be subject to a joint public hearing, a planning commission recommendation, and final action by the mayor and city council. And the second option was to ask the mayor and city council to conduct a courtesy review and determine how the amendment should proceed, with the planning commission conducting the public hearing, and then either the planning commission or the mayor and council making the final decision. And as noted on this slide, the applicant chose to follow the second option, and during that courtesy review, council found that the proposed changes did not have a minor impact and determined that the council should make the final decision regarding the application. And at the end of the courtesy review, the council had requested that the public hearing should be a joint public hearing rather than just the planning commission public hearing. And staff did confirm that that was allowed, and that's why we're here tonight, of course. The council had also asked about the APFO impact of removing the age restriction, and staff did confirm that the APFO schools test does not apply to an age-restricted unit, but it would apply to any units that are not age-restricted. And as noted in the preliminary background report, which is included in your packet, the Watkins Mill cluster serves the Spectrum development, and currently it is not in moratorium at this time, and there are no Gaithersburg up fees associated with that cluster either. And following the joint public hearing tonight, Mayor and City Council and Planning Commission will establish a closing date for their records and announce tentative dates for the Commission's recommendation and the Council's policy discussion. So now that we've gotten through the sketch plan amendment process, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the applicant's team to begin their presentation, and I believe they're going to make their way up here. Here. Thank you. Do you want to do the keyboard, or do you want me to just advance it?
I can do it.
I can do it.
Yeah. We have 3 of us here, so
Okay.
does that work for you?
Yes.
Just sit in?
I'll step back when I'm done with my part.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, actually, that would work.
Perfect.
That's fine.
Good evening. Here, let me just,
Good evening and welcome.
thank you. All right, I'm Matthew Walters, developer associate here with the applicant. We're here to amend sketch plan Z301A. This is Spectrum at Watkins Mill. It's a 33-acre mixed-use development on the northwest quadrant of Watkins Mill Road and North Frederick Avenue. It's zoned MXD. Just a little more detail on it. We're currently approved for 215,000 square feet of mixed office, office, restaurant, commercial, service space, 859 multifamily units, inclusive of the 158 on the subject parcel, as well as a 30,000 square foot senior center that at the time of the original approval, the city considered building. To date, we have built 468 of those units. We've built a Firebirds, Starbucks, Royal Farms. There are a couple of other pad sites that we have plans for, but the real pad of significance that is yet to be resolved is this subject parcel, where the Magnolia will go. Also, the 6th District Police Station, as you all know, is currently under construction in this development. Here's a look at the parcel itself. It's 1.75 acres, just to the west of the Stream Valley Buffer Forest Preserve. This parcel, throughout all of the approvals, has been referred to as Block R, and it's owned by BBTC 13 LLC, which is the applicant. On the left here, you'll see the most recent approval that includes this block. It's from ASK 8940-2021, and that was primarily to amend the sketch plan for Paramount North, which is on the other side of the Forest Preserve. And at that time, this Block R was approved for 6 stories, 158 age-restricted units, and up to 3,000 square feet of non-residential. We are asking to have that changed to 7 stories, 244 non-age restricted units, and no change to the 3,000 square feet of non-residential. So surrounding uses, to the north, we have improved stormwater management facilities installed by the applicant or related entities, Pepco utility corridor, as well as some commercial uses. And to the east, across 355, is commercial and residential uses. To the south is commercial uses. To the west is the old Humane Society headquarters location. And across 270, with entities related to the applicant, there's townhomes, there's proposed commercial and residential, as well as 700,000 square feet of life sciences. Again, here's what we're seeking to change. So this is showing, obviously, the Google Earth of the site circled in red. We have, throughout all these projects, made it a concerted effort to focus the residential around that forest preserve and keep the commercial spaces out on the busier roads. And that's what we are hoping to do, or planning to do here as well. Although the age restriction doesn't make sense to us for this site anymore, multifamily still makes a ton of sense here. The first big change is going to 7 stories, and it's not as clear on here, and you'll see it on subsequent slides, that the topography is pretty severe on this site. The bottom of your screen, or bottom of the screen here, shows where the main entrance would be, and that's at about an elevation of 408 feet. And as you fall off to the back corner, it's around 372 feet, so like a 36-foot grade difference. And if we kept a 6-foot or 6-story building, you can see it here a little bit better. If you keep a 6-story building there with that grade difference, on the main road, Paramount Park Drive, you would have a 3-story building, which is not something we've done. We typically have 4 stories above podium. That's what will fit in with the development. It'll match Paramount East, match Paramount West, if it has that frontage of 4 stories. And you'll see here in the different colors, those are all below podium. If you're on Paramount Park Drive, they would be below grade. But as you go back toward the forest preserve, they're actually above grade. And so rather than having a garage facing this forest preserve, we figured it's a great chance to take advantage of those views and add more units. So we've created a liner that is a buffer between the garage and the forest preserve. And that's what you see with the light blue, purple, and the yellow there. This is a little more detail of that liner that I was referencing. This not only increases the density here because we now have units where previous approvals did not show them, but it also gives us the advantage of having people park on the same level where their units are. So they don't even need the use of an elevator. They just park, walk right in the building, and all of these units are, as far as they're concerned, at grade with their car. Aside from adding units below podium, we increased density in other ways. One of those being just the building footprint was able to grow. As you see in this graphic here, previous approvals had shown a ramp that allowed you to enter 2 different levels of the garage. One closest to Paramount Park Drive, and then you would ramp down further and go underneath to a second level of the garage. We've now moved that inside the garage, the ramp, which allows us to add quite a few more stacks of units and increase the density. And this is another way that we've been able to increase the density. Just over the course of the last 11 years, when Paramount East and West first opened, we also built Majestic and another one in Germantown. We've kind of tweaked and made our amenity to unit ratio more efficient. We've got units that we really love now because we've learned after every project. And so the amenities here, you'll see it's efficient, and the fact that they are part of this development as a whole, just like Majestic and Paramount the residents all have fobs to access amenities for any building on site. This building wouldn't have the same. So a resident, if the amenities don't serve their needs here, which they should, it's meant to be designed as a standalone building that can handle itself. But if they wanted to use a different pool or a different gym, they would just go to one of the other buildings. And so the residents that currently live here will have this building to use those amenities as well when it opens. So that's another way that we have increased the density a little bit. The amenities are not overbuilt and they're well designed. Another way that we added density is this is a solution that we came up with a project in Virginia, and I think it'll work here too. Adding units, here you can see this is the podium level that's showing, but on the planned north side of that pool, that half would be actually under units.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Sorry.
So units, or floors 2 through 4, would have units above half of that pool. And so that enabled us to add a lot of density as well. And for this part, I'll hand it over to Lee.
Lee Henry. Einstein allegedly said, "We cannot solve problems by using the same kind of thinking that we use to create them." Tonight, we are asking you to think differently about the diversity of seniors and their needs. If COVID taught us anything, it's that we need new approaches to senior housing that are less isolating. So during this presentation, we will ask you to consider the needs of middle-class seniors and those with mobility impairments who do not want to live in limited service, age-restricted retirement homes. As we envision the Magnolia, it would provide for seniors and those with mobility challenges a more affordable option than active adult living, the ability to live near or with younger family members or caregivers, the ability to live in a multi-age environment with all the stimulation that provides, and the advantages of a vibrant, diverse community. During this presentation, we're going to cover 5 topics: how Parcel R became age-restricted, senior housing designations, the cost of senior housing options, the excluded seniors, and the multi-generational option.
Thank you. And here's a napkin. And I'm still trying to figure out how to use this thing, so I apologize for the delay. Okay, how Parcel R came to be. Oh, yeah, sorry.
I want to introduce yourself too.
You should, there you go, thank you, actually. There you go, thank you. The city came to me, Fred Belton, exactly, and said, we'd like to do a senior center in the property, okay? I said, that sounds okay. He explained to me what a senior center was. And he said, we're going to build that 10,000 square feet, and then after we build it, you can build the age-restricted housing. We want those to support each other. I said, okay, makes sense. We were settling the lawsuit on the other side of the freeway, and it worked out. So that allowed the project to move forward. Next, did I do that the right way? No. There it is. Okay. So in 2005, there was a 10,000 square foot senior center with 158 adjacent senior housing units. In 2007, Fred came to us with the city manager and said we'd like to increase it to 30,000 square feet, so we had to shrink the footprint, which made it more expensive to build the thing, but we did do it. And because we figured a 30,000 square foot, two-story, that's great. We provide the parking, it's all going to be great. In 2009, the then mayor decided to put together a blue ribbon committee to study where to put this senior center. And they put a fairly exhaustive study of it. The site came in 7th out of 7. And that kind of put it on the shelf and killed it. In 2012, the senior center was dedicated, the land for the senior center. So that dedication was done, as we promised. Then between 2012 and 2023, this stacks the relative activities into two groups. We built the Paramount Apartments, as you know, the Paramount Retail, Performers Park, Majestic Retail, most importantly, the Watkins Mill Interchange. Took forever to do that, and thank you all for participating in that process. Incredibly important. 6th District Police Station, which you now at long last see going up, thank heavens, Firebird, Starbucks, and Royal Farms. Meanwhile, we've been back in the city 4 times. This is our 4th time in saying, can we build this? And they say, no, it's going to be a senior center. You have to build it as senior because we're going to put a senior center there. Okay? The senior center, in 2024, we went ahead and did the Paramount North, and Matthew's a partner in that project, and of course, with the families. And the Magnolia we're now in for with a complimentary current application. And the city went ahead and did a multi-generational following a lot of studies that are out there now. And you could look at most places, they are now building multi-generational. I know you guys have participated and approved a study on this very point. So they went ahead and got that done. When I started with this, I was 47 years old. I'm 71 now. That's how long I've been chewing on this same bone. And I was told that there'd be a senior center. And I think the family and the group has done everything that we said we do. And this one piece of real estate has been hung up initially because of the senior center concept. But now that that's kind of behind us, and I kind of view it as a semi-breakthrough because this is the first time the staff hasn't said, no, you can't do it because of the senior center. They come up with some other reasons, but we can address the other reasons. But I do think it's important because we paid $90,000 this year in taxes and maintenance on this piece of real estate. And we've been doing this stuff for 20 years now, 20-some years. And meanwhile, they're humming. It's time to build the project there and get it approved. So that's why we're here today. I'm getting older. I know no one else is, but I'm actually in the senior category now. And so I have some sympathy for this whole deal. I would like to get this thing done. I think 24 years is long enough. And that was my point.
So the next slide,
Oh, sorry. I'm still learning.
talk about senior housing designations. This is something I'm living, maybe some of you are also, with aging parents. The National Institute of Health divides the aging process into 3 discernible stages. Active healthy, this is the point most people are at when they retire. Most will prefer to either stay in their homes or move to a resort-style community, and many continue to work. The slowing down phase. This happens when seniors can no longer drive or they are starting to encounter more significant mobility or cognitive issues. At this phase, most seniors prefer multifamily living that is maintenance-free with elevators, walkable amenities, and showers. And then there's the third stage, which is skilled nursing memory care. The active adult, our local example is Leisure World. Active adult is booming in the Sun Belt. Typically, it's resort-style living with golf courses. I'm sure there's a lot of pickleball. That's active adult. It could be 55 or 62 and up. Independent living is kind of an umbrella term. It can refer to income-restricted senior housing, which has very few services. It's more of a financing regulatory scheme typically. We see it recently with the Seneca Creek, where they have a laundromat and very little on-site parking, and it's designed for low-income seniors. Independent living can also be a component of CCRCs. It's typically the kind of entry stage. And you see it with older existing apartments when financing was available. When you move into the slowing down and beyond stage, seniors start to have more difficulty with activities of daily living, and they need assisted living with meals and various a la carte services for care. Skilled nursing would involve wound care, physical therapy, and the like, and memory care is specialized for those with dementia and Alzheimer's. The new category killer are the continuous care retirement communities, and these are an option that provides a continuum of care from independent living, assisted living, memory care to still skilled nursing. They're popular with couples where one member needs more care than the other, and they allow for the continuous residency through the aging process, and they involve an upfront and monthly payments. Senior housing is expensive regardless. For the wealthy, there's CCRCs. For the low-income seniors, there are subsidized units. But for the middle class, senior housing rapidly deletes financial resources and is difficult. For the average person, this chart is skewed because it's giving you averages that are going to be the combination of the more expensive and subsidized. Here again, you see the median cost of independent living for buildings where food is provided. It's going to be a per person charge, not a per apartment charge. Back to the CCRCs, they're a good option for high net worth individuals. We have a fair number of those in Montgomery County, so we have kind of a construction boom of these CCRCs. That average initial payment is more than $400,000. We see recently in the Grandview Bethesda, it's $536,000. In addition, there's a monthly base, and then, of course, on top of that are medical services. There was a recent New York Times publication that was done in collaboration with the Kaiser Family Foundation entitled Dying Broke. And it reported that the fees in senior housing often exceed the base rent. And they gave examples of $12 for a blood pressure check, $315 a month for help with an inhaler. And then, of course, there are charges for showering, toiletring, check-ins, and the like. And staff asked us to do some market studies.
Either way, yeah. So we consistently, every couple of years, we go out and check what the senior market was, because back when we first made the deal, the quid pro quo with the city, you could finance that stuff. There was money available for it. And you didn't have to do subsidy, although there was subsidized if you put it together. Our son, worked for a affordable housing developer until about a year ago when the market fell apart. You had this very difficult time to do it. With subsidized housing, you have to put together 7 or 8 layers of equity to get it and hopefully get the land for free and do that to try to put the deal together. The overall cost is much higher, and I'll be able to show, if you want, exhibits on that as well. But it worked for a brief moment when rates were 0 again. And so we actually saw a few come through around the country, but that window's been shut. And there's all kinds of testimony that we can provide subsequently if the staff wants to, both from BizNow and other groups as well, of how that's become infeasible. The machine that's eaten it is the CCRCs. You can still, if you can get a church to put the money up or put the land up, and you could still potentially do subsidized housing for the independent living. But that category otherwise is really kind of wiped out. So the staff asked us to go out and solicit a couple of them. So we went to Del Webb, who turned around immediately and said, thanks, no. It's not the market. It doesn't work there. And it's not just the market, it's our site. And then Welltower, which is the biggest in the country. They own more affordable housing units than anyone else, including the Carnegie, but multiples of all different kinds. And we provided staff along a pretty extensive market research study that they did. I was surprised they did it and they gave it to us, but they gave us the whole thing. And so it's just not a site because from their perspective, for non-subsidized senior, there is no market here anymore. We're oversupplied in Montgomery County, and they project that to continue, not like for 2 years or 3 years. I couldn't get them to say 10 years or 12 years or 8 years, but they just said it's well beyond our investment curve, okay? That kind of said, okay, well, what do you do now? And that left us to the excluded seniors. Do you want to do this one? They want me to.
Kamala Harris recently proposed that the cost of home health care be included as a Medicare benefit. But that will only help seniors who own a home and who are eligible for this proposed benefit. We know that most seniors pay for housing and medical care through personal savings and retirement funds, Social Security payments, and the sale of their personal residence. According to a recent Harvard University study on housing, median home equity levels reflect significant inequality by race and ethnicity. Older Black homeowners typically have a median home equity of $123,000 as compared to older white homeowners who have $251,000 median home equity level. We know that older baby boomers, those born between 1946 and 1964, are more likely to be homeowners than the younger cohort. But what about renters? We know that roughly 50% of the city's population are renters, a percentage that rises to 65.2% among Blacks, 65.5% among Hispanics, and 75.5% among other races. For these seniors, it is especially important that they conserve their savings for as long as possible so that they have funds available for medical needs. According to a recent Cushman Wakefield Investor Survey and Trends Report on U.S. senior living and care, affordability remains unsolved. With the number of middle-income seniors projected to double by 2029, over half of this segment will not have adequate finances to afford conventional senior living and care. We need to think differently and outside of the box of the senior housing business model to meet these needs. The Kaiser Family Foundation reported that 83% of seniors said it would be impossible or at least very difficult to pay $60,000 a year for assisted living base rent. We also know that dramatic demographic changes have occurred in Gaithersburg, creating a more vibrant, multicultural community that is more economically diverse than in the past. We also know that many seniors new to Gaithersburg either do not own a home or have insufficient savings to pay for the high cost of senior living. We also know that many seniors do not qualify for government-subsidized senior housing. This leaves the middle class dangling.
No, and this is the dilemma that the country's facing. I mean, everyone knows this is a problem. So the solution that we've tried to do in the spectrum, and we did this before, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Did I miss something? Yeah, I always miss something.
Okay.
We're talking about the multiple generation. We look to, she's the brains of the family. We look to trying to accommodate all mobilities and ages. And so if you go to the Spectrum Project, sorry, am I doing the wrong thing? Hold on.
Okay.
That's right. We're still learning. I apologize. You guys are. When you go to the Spectrum Project, you'll see from day one, we have elevators served. We made sure that entrances are all friendly. The units, now that we've learned some things, and we'll talk about that. As we go through this, what we learned in doing the Fairchild most recently, and that we want to bring to these next two projects. You've seen Sunland and Paramount North, and we will continue to explore and do medical modern breakthroughs. I don't have to tell everybody that we're going to live longer. And if you ask people, they're going to work longer because they can and they have to. Almost half the baby boomers nowadays expect to work past age 70. You know, and I'm there. I don't know how many of you other guys are thinking past 70. But if you can work and it's mentally stimulating, you know, that's something that we can do. We can still do for society. You're doing it now, and just continue on. It's important. There is a slowing down phase, and we can accommodate that by multi-generational housing, which is what we've done. It's at a significantly lower rate. You know, why would you pay $4,000 or $5,000 a month when you can lease a place for ours at 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever it is? It's not just ours. Other people that build that housing. It's an important tool to where they can spend their money. There's also NIH reports and other reports which we can send where when they actually poll people, there's some people that would prefer to live in an all-senior community. And that's perfectly fine. But there's a number of people that would prefer to live in a mixed-age community. And sometimes they need to, because the family needs to live with, family member needs to live with them. That is not permitted in senior housing, as it is right now. It's particularly subsidized, but it's age restricted. You've got, like right now, we've got our parents living with her. Matthew his mother does not have enough funds to see forever. So how do you accommodate these people? The first thing is you don't have them run out of money. Because if you look at the research, the number one concern of people that are 70 and over is that they're going to run out of money. This is a vehicle that works. Culturally, as a population, it's consistent with the ULI study. This is a good one. The change that Lee referred to within the city and or in the country is multi-generational households, and I don't mean just households in the same house, but in the same community where they're self-supportive. We have a couple of families in our existing apartments where the elderly individuals there, and in the same building or across the street, the younger family member is there. They enjoy that separation some, but they want to be connected. All right. Okay, let's see. Oh, by the way, that last slide, I forgot to mention this. This is also consistent with studies that are done by the AARP and by Montgomery County, both of which we can supply if staff wants to see them. All right. When they have a choice, I'm just going to kind of read this. Baby boomers are rejecting age-restricted housing. And this has really become, since COVID, we all read about COVID, the change in mentality. The age-restricted housing still has not recovered its occupancy percentage from where it was. And that's an important factor when you're trying to build this stuff. And it impacts financing right now as well. It also, I have return shields that I can, because we'll bring it up later, what the relative returns are between and the 200 basis point almost spread between the two, between market rate housing and the cost to construct and finance senior housing. According to the Council on Aging, they tend to be primarily white, and that I think really it reflects the demographic of who has the money. And I just think it does right now in our society. Inclusive versus exclusive, very important. Senior housing restricts younger family members from living in the same building. I mentioned that, sorry about that. Most seniors cannot afford the cost of assisted living, have to rely on the family members as support, and we have that all over. Most cherished family connections do not want to be isolated, and we certainly see that with her parents living in when we bring the grandkids over and they get a chance to interact. It's just really important, a part of what they do. It's all you, right?
Okay.
Barbara.
We were going to go into this.
Oh, did you do this one?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. The program that we followed in multi-generational living accommodates not just seniors, but new employees. And in Gaithersburg, your economic engine, I mean, in Montgomery County, thank God Montgomery County has Gaithersburg, I'm going to be honest with you. Because you are an economic engine for them, and you're on the right side, and you're pushing things the right way. Regardless of what you'll read, you'll see a staff comment about housing's not important, or it's not as important as how much they pay the employee. That is wrong thinking. This is about the employers that come in here and we deal with them. They want to know, number one, do you have the employment base with the expertise that I need? Highly educated. And number two, where are they going to live? That's the two main questions. And if you can answer both of those yes, they'll go somewhere else. And you need the housing here. Because never mind life sciences going up and down, you've got technology. Hughes just signed a huge lease up in Germantown. It's 140,000 square feet of high-tech jobs. They've already called us. How are you going to, where are we going to put them? Okay? So it's here. This is a real need in your market. And you can accommodate both ends of the spectrum and everything in between. And that's what we try to do. The whys of multi-generational, as I said, we've been in multiple times on this job. The response is seniors coming. As I said, this is like a breakthrough for us because for 20 years I haven't had this conversation in front of you. It's great. The multi-generational is the right model for where we are right now. Whether it's your senior facility that you're looking at, or whether it's the housing that supplements what the city's housing stock is. This is where we need to go. We can't really look back at the old model. It just doesn't work right now. And so now we're going to deal with the goals. Housing master plan. Okay. Ensure the availability consideration for seniors and housing and individuals with ability. Check. Our units are done. Do that. Encourage builders to build homes with features could be accommodate people of all ages and abilities. Lee will potentially speak about roll-in showers on podium decks that we do and other things. I'm not going to go into that, but I'm telling you, she's so far ahead of this in terms of what she's learned on the Fairchild and what we do now that it's a great program. And you'll hear about it. Address mobility barriers by ensuring physical infrastructure, transportation meet ADA. Of course, we do that. And we work with the city to make sure it's done right. And the rental units, make sure there's more than 5% above fair housing, of course. It's 100% fair housing when you do multi-stories the way we do it. Okay? Preserve and approve, this is the final goal. Existing, approved, and age-restricted housing. This was added in late 2023 in the Housing Master Plan. We wrote to staff and said this is inappropriate. We called the staff. We had conversations. We went into the record. This is inappropriate. It went into the master plan anyway, over our repeated objections. We went out and researched. We don't have all the tools the city has, but we researched. We could not find another piece of land, the vacant property in the city that's restricted to senior only. So we kind of felt singled out. Now, maybe the city's going to say, oh, no, there's many other sites that are senior only. But if it's so critical, how come you don't have senior-only buildings in Crown? How about in Lake Forest? Was that an essential part? Why is it an essential part here? And the answer is, I don't know the answer to that question. But I haven't got an answer. And so I don't think that this should be applied to us in a unique way. That's my, now again, maybe they're going to show you 6 other sites, and then I'm interested to hear about that.
Okay, let me.
You got it, babe.
So, at the Magnolia, what we would like to do is expand on our existing model. As Peter said, we have multi-generational living at the Spectrum, and we've learned from our residents about what they're looking for, what would make that better. So while, yes, this would be market rate, yes, it would be similar in many ways to what we're doing at Spectrum, we would like to do it with more intention. We know the number one thing that people are looking for in an apartment to age in place is a shower large enough for a shower chair and all that goes with that. In our price bracket, virtually every apartment has a shower tub combination that makes that more difficult. We also know that seniors prefer side-by-side washer dryers. We know that even before they might qualify for a handicap parking space, they want, it might be good to go for a walk, but they don't want to carry heavy groceries long distances. And there are a variety of other things, as Peter mentioned at the Fairchild. 5% of our units are designated under the ANSI code. So in building these according to that code, we've learned how to do it better. Our building accommodations are essentially, for the most part, what you're going to find in any modern multi-story apartment building. But in this building, as Matthew discussed, we have a more than typical number of podium levels that would enable us to do hard plank flooring throughout, showers with low or no thresholds. Developers typically don't do side-by-side washer dryers at this price point because they take more space. So, and we've learned we've learned some things about accessibility features in bathrooms. So I guess what I think we're not trying to do some kind of communal housing. We're not trying to convert to a dramatically different model for building apartment units, but we do think we can do this well here.
Yeah, and again, everything that you'll see, and I know this is sketch plan, so, but the brick, consistent quality, the same kind of materials, durable, because everything we build, the families keep. So, you're looking at 20 years from now, hopefully, I'll be 91 sitting here, and it'll be the same thing. So there's no magic going on. There were a couple of quick points I wanted to hit that the staff had put in, and we didn't get a chance to respond to. We can follow up in writing, and to be more concise, the staff had an issue in terms of, they put together a list of affordable housing, which, of course, I have handouts for this. I don't know if you'd rather have handouts. Do you still do handouts? I just don't know. But affordable housing.
You can just present it to us now and leave a handout with Leah when.
Great, perfect. Okay, because it's not in the PowerPoint. But basically, we were given a list of housing, senior housing, and I said, look at all the senior housing it's been building. This is their list put together that is in chronological order, and you'll see almost all of them are either they're CCRCs, continuous care retirement communities, very expensive, or subsidized housing. This is not unusual. In Montgomery County did a complete survey on this, and 38 of the 42, I believe, senior housing facilities in the county are deemed to be affordable, effectively, or CCRCs. So it's a very common thing. We'll deal with that later. Okay, just a quick thing. Second, there was an issue in terms of staff kind of thinking maybe we weren't approaching this the right way. The difference between multi-generational housing and multi-generational homes. A home is a single building, and people like
We have one of those.
we do have one of those. That's right. Thank God. One. But the folks like what is it? Hakovian. That's what they build, single-family homes, and Rocket Mortgage. So you'll see citations in there using the term single-family homes as opposed to housing. We are not proposing a collective community living all in one roof in a big house. This is where you have the ability to have mixed generations where they can be with each other and with friends or live nearby.
I think it's
You want to? She knows more about this than I do.
No.
You'll quickly discover
okay.
that.
So there were several comments that staff put into the record that we were confused about the definition of multi-generational living. So I just want to read the AARP's definition of multi-generational living. Multi-generational housing refers to people of different generations, whether related or not, living together. This can be in the same house or in close proximity to the same residential building or neighborhood. Ideally, multi-generational living solutions provide opportunities for interaction and engagement across generations rather than simple proximity. When multi-generational living is intentional, it is associated with better health outcomes, decreased loneliness among older adults, and better educational outcomes among children.
And that will make that available as well. Kind of in sum, I've been here a long time. We try to build what we said we'd build. If we say we're going to dedicate something, we dedicate it. If we say we're going to build something, we build it. That's just how the family operates. We've been caught in a gap here for 20 years. And so I just think it's time to clean it up. Let us build, instead of paying $85,000 a year to Montgomery County SDAT, which I'm not saying they don't need the money in the state, but, let us build our building, move forward, have housing that's affordable for seniors and for new employees, and we'll move on. Thank you very much. Any questions? I don't know. Questions? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, I believe it's going to go back to the council to discuss.
Yeah, no.
Sorry about that. I'm out of practice.
All good. So thank you. Thanks to everyone for the presentation. You put a lot on the table here. I'm going to open it up for questions before we go to the public. This is a public hearing. And I'll just go by whoever indicates first that they want to speak. We'll go with Rob Wu.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. Just a question on kind of what I'm seeing as the different elements here. One is the senior housing versus the multi-generational housing. The other appears to be the unit count and what's supported by the market. In your mind, are they linked together? Are they necessarily things that have to go together, or should we be considering those elements separately on their own merits?
It's just an interesting question. You're in a market on the market rate, it's 98% leased. So it's like it was described to me by Ted Lerner that this is an ocean and this is a drop in the ocean. If you build the right drop, you're doing the right thing. Affordable housing, you have a lot of the supply-demand curve has been shown based on the studies that by people that know to do it. You have excess supply at the top end, okay, for the people that have $500,000, $600,000 or more. Now that the Grandview is coming, 1.2 million or whatever that is, 560 and more with the annual. And at the bottom end, you're going to run short on subsidized housing. And that means the government's going to have to figure out how to pay for this, either in Social Security or Medicare or some other reason, both of which are facing, as you know, fiscal cliffs in 2034, 2035. And then you've got everyone else in the middle, all the rest of the people. They don't have $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 sitting around to pay for that. And so trying to provide housing for them that meets their needs for as long as possible, and then maybe they have to go to nursing care that Medicare picks up, that's perhaps the best solution available for them. Is that responsive? Okay.
I think so. I mean, what I was more asking a question about is, say we agree with you that the senior housing restriction on the site is antiquated, but the mix of housing is something that we view differently. And so what I'm trying to figure out is it option A and option B are a necessity, or do option A and option B are they variable separate from each other?
Are you asking about density or unit mix?
So I think I'm asking about both, but in my mind, the density, and correct me if I'm wrong, the density is going along with the unit mix. Is that true?
Not really. It's more a deeper understanding of the site. So it's providing liner units on the forest preserve. It's creating a bridge on the elevated terrace.
Okay, so you're achieving more units through redesign rather than basically shrinking the product within the site.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And the parking garage, as Matthew said, having the ramps internal rather than external.
Okay.
Neil.
So one quick question and then a comment. You talked about units where the showers and bathtubs would be more accessible and side-by-side washer and dryer. Is your plan that all the units would be structured this way, or is that for some subset of the units?
So those work, I mean, to do a roll-in shower, you really need to be on concrete. You need to do it works best on the podium level.
Okay, I'm just curious
Yeah.
what the
Again,
restriction-
I would imagine the studios would have a stacked washer dryer typically. We haven't gotten into the fine details of the studio design, but.
Okay, I was just curious if this was the plan for 100% or there's some other restriction, so I appreciate the answer. And I just want to make a comment because your description of a building where different family members can live in different units is very familiar to me. I have family in Toronto where there was a lot of multifamily apartments. I have two cousins living in the same apartment building, and my cousin, my late aunt, the mother of both of my cousins lived in the same building, and a different cousin who was their cousin and my cousin lived in the same building, and that was, everybody had their own space, but they could go up an elevator 1 floor or 2 floors and visit each other and have dinner or whatever. So it was a good way to live.
There you go.
I'm not quite ready for that yet, but I could see that happening because I have a 4-story townhouse now and it's getting harder.
Yeah.
So anyway, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it just strikes me as a more interesting lifestyle to be around people of multiple generations. I'm a boomer, so that's what you said about boomers. All right, thanks.
All right, we'll go to John Bauer.
Thank you. So, Councilmember Wu, I think I want to at least amplify a point you were trying to make. I think you were trying to make, so correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there's really two separate questions on the table here, and they're not necessarily related. So the first is coming to the council for a policy discussion on whether the age-restricted housing condition on this original SDP is still valid and should still be enforced as you move forward. That to me that's one big question. The second piece, which you gave us a lot of information on the senior level thing. Well, thank you for that, by the way, because that was very insightful. Not a lot on why this should be substantially more units, more density. No real discussion about outdoor amenities. There's certain things implied in the way you showed the configuration that it might actually compromise the little bit of outdoor amenity you have, but we're not into the design yet. I'm just sort of kind of getting at the point that not a lot of discussion and not a lot of data about why the unit mix should be different or is different or whatever it should be, especially if you begin to follow through with the argument that multi-generational housing only includes units within the building and not the sides of the units themselves to allow for extended family and things like that. I'm worried that we haven't gone deep enough there, but on the other hand, the big question on the table is the age restriction. So I guess my big question is, are those other things really in this argument? Because you've done a lot on age restriction, but nothing on the density increase. I don't see any real justification for that in this presentation, and maybe I just looked the other way when you were doing that slide, but.
Well, we can go back to the slide, but the density, assume for the moment we just decide to strip all the units out that face the park, or the forest preserve, along that are used as liners
Right.
for the unit. It would save us money because we wouldn't have to build as many parking spaces. So that's easy, right? But you're giving up all those units. So to the extent that you can put units and you're willing to pay the price for the extra concrete, and you can put units that look out into the forest preserve, you're going to pick up units. All of the units, if you deal with pure senior housing, you'll see the units are very small. These units are larger than the typical senior housing, and so it's just there's not a loss on that side either.
Okay, I think you sidestepped it again. Let me ask the question directly.
Sure.
How many units do you add by adding the liner units in the next level, right? And how much parking do you take out of the project?
I don't know the answer to that question, but we can get back to you. Matthew's actually an architect, a licensed architect, and he'll actually know the answer to this, but it's better to give you the right answer but we can give you that.
And did you reduce the amount of outdoor amenity space from, and it's hard to say because you really didn't get to the point in the design where that was.
It's always been designed kind of the same. It's always been that donut. What we did do is by extending over the pool using what we're looking at doing in Reston.
And did you change the unit mix in going to this new configuration? So fewer multi-bedroom units and more studio single-bedroom units?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you when you do senior housing, you build very few two-bedroom units. So they would be one-bedrooms and down for senior housing. Because, think about it, to buy two bedrooms, you're at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month.
Okay.
Is that responsive? If it's off point, Matthew will get to it.
All right.
Do you have a count on this, with this sketch plan? It's a number of studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms?
Yes,
What is that?
we have to look it up.
All right, okay.
But this is not, I mean,
The sketch plan.
this
I
is
know.
a sketch
Sorry,
plan, so I think
we do that.
units, as you move through the process of design, your unit mix can
Alter some.
change a little here and there, and,
But you have actually, we can ultimately provide that number for you. We don't have it right now,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, you can get that for us.
We can pull the plans and pull that out, and the plans are already submitted in there, so I'd have to dig through all of the
Yeah,
the files.
we can dig through it too. I just,
It's in there, sorry.
yeah,
yeah.
all good. We'll go to Lisa then Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, and the information. That was, great, insightful information. This is near and dear to me now because I'm currently spending a lot of time with my mother who now needs additional care. And I will tell you, she lives in a 2-bedroom in an age-restricted facility, and I don't know where I would sleep if that weren't the case. So there are accommodations there in those age-restricted units that, and I appreciate the word multi-generational housing and the thoughts of that. But how do you guarantee multi-generational? And it's market rate, open market. How can I guarantee multi-generational?
Do you want to take it?
You can't. I
Right,
mean,
right.
simply put, staff had a suggestion that this would be kind of 2 buildings. There would be an age-restricted building and a market rate building. But under fair housing, this isn't, you would have to have 2 different management teams because it's not workable under fair housing. The sorts of questions you would have to ask are illegal. You can't make any assumptions about whether someone would prefer to be in a restricted environment or would prefer the multi-generational. There was actually, let's see if I brought this, yes. The Montgomery County, let's see what this group is, did intergenerational housing a case study. And they looked at
The Bonifant in Silver
the
Spring.
Bonifant in Silver Spring, which was projected to be this mixed market and senior housing. The project proposed its intergenerational housing with 50% family, 50% seniors, but fair housing and age discrimination regulation prevented it from happening, and the project moved forward as senior-only housing.
I agree with the difficulty.
Yeah.
That answers my question in terms of, it's my concern. So the units are built out to accommodate seniors, right? With the shower amenities that you spoke of, and I'm sure additional amenities for senior, yet seniors may not be able to take advantage of any of it.
And why would that be?
Because 54 and younger are in there.
And they're sucking up all the availability?
Sure, absolutely, it's an open market.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest issue has been, and it's a dilemma that we've had, Lee runs the entire management team and the architectural team as well. The biggest problem you have is we've come to jurisdiction, Montgomery County, and said, how can we advertise and reach out to seniors and let them know we have facilities for them? And they say you can't do it. I mean, we can't advertise that they're seniors. You can only advertise. You cannot advertise under the current law, right, wrong, or indifferent. You cannot advertise, come on in. And so
Well,
it's a problem.
I
Tell
don't
me if I'm
exactly
wrong.
agree with that.
This is our relationship, by the way. We don't have a problem.
But could we work together collaboratively to make the availability of these special units known? Yes.
Very good.
Does that happen now for units with universal design? No. So I think there's a lot that we can and should do. And I think if the availability of these units was known and they were popular, then more would be built.
Okay, thank you.
Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Always good to see you both. Thank you for the presentation. I want to kind of piggyback on what Lisa was asking, because that was one of my questions too, about the ability to ensure that you have that multi-generational experience. And, you know, Lee, I wrote down, you mentioned that you wanted to be more intentional with this space and looking for ways to make this intentional. I appreciate the example from Silver Spring, because my mind went to, why couldn't we do what we do with MPDUs and say that you sprinkle 25% age restricted through? But if that's violating federal law, then obviously that becomes a challenge. I appreciate all the information that you're providing about the market conditions. And you're right, you know, when this was first conceived, we were going to have a giant draw for seniors at a city-built senior center that obviously has not come together. So I understand that we're not getting that mix that we were all expecting 20 years ago on the site. But to Councilmember Henderson's point, how do we create that multi-generational experience that I agree, I think makes a lot of sense in this space? Obviously, it sounds like you would be designing them, but you know, if Hughes is bringing in X number of people and they see that space and it's all going to be young urban professionals, then there is a chance of seniors getting shut out. As far as the change in massing and bulk, I think it's a very smart way of using the exposure to the forest preserve. I like the idea of wrapping the garage. I think that's very smart. I appreciate the information from Kirk about the schools. I had found some older information that was out of date that I was concerned that this would have put, especially the elementary, closer to moratorium, but I was glad to see that the more updated numbers make that less of a concern, even with some of the new developments that council has approved in the past few years. So for me, it really does come down to, you know, how do you end up creating an environment to draw in those different age groups? And I don't know if that is through the kinds of ground level retail that you bring in. I don't know if that's through advertising specifically these particular units are accessible or what, because I know that's something you can do.
Good idea.
I don't know if it's more of a comment or a question, but
comments.
That's definitely where my head is going. The additional density on this site doesn't worry me with the proximity to 270, proximity to BRT. I think you're using the site, you're proposing to use the site smartly, and I think had you proposed this originally back then, it would have been something that we would have been receptive to. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to look at is, as we're considering this, if this had been the plan all along, what would we have done? Because, you know, now we're in 2024, it's a different marketplace, and what makes sense now. So that's where my brain is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Jamil.
Hi, thank you, guys. Just a few questions for clarification. And make sure I heard or understood right. Is it your position or that position that you're not allowed to have a mix of age restricted and non-age restricted?
You can have a mix. This is you can have a mix. You cannot advertise a mix. For example, in our Spectrum projects now, we have tenants that have been, residents that have been in there, and they came in before they were seniors and now they're seniors. If you have a good community that builds community, you have a reasonable chance of people staying. The younger people are the ones that tend to come and go. They buy a house, they come and go. If you're a senior, you sold your house, you've got a nice apartment, you just want to kind of be there. That's, I think, and again, we're still fairly new at the curve on this organically.
I think the
Go ahead.
question, and
Go
you
ahead.
know a lot more about this,
No.
financing.
Oh, that's true.
As I understand it, you build a building under a financing regime. The reason you can discriminate on the basis of age in senior housing is because it's under a different financing and regulatory regime. And so I don't know of any instances where you have age restricted and in the same building you have non-age restricted.
No, she's quite correct. You can't say age restricted, but you can put in individuals like myself that are over, 52 or 65, whatever. You can put, we can go into that apartment and in a mixed community, but you can't say, when I walk in the door, are you over 62? Which of course, yes.
You
No, maybe
can
my
if
question's
it's
a little
age
different, that, like,
Yeah.
if there's 200 and some units, can 50, 100 have the age restriction associated with that pool and the rest be market, or they all have to be either all age restricted or all market?
Yeah, and that's nodding. Yes, the answer is, if you want to apply for the shield of age restricted and go through that process, you are then age restricted. They have certain exceptions over 50 to 55 and above, and 62 or whatever. And there's certain periods of time that you can have a child live with you or something like that, but beyond that, boom, they're gone. You can't just turn it into a mixed community. Some of the more expensive, the golf course communities, you can have a younger spouse be there, for example. That's not a problem.
Well, so
Yeah.
just to answer your question,
Yeah.
it's the latter. It's either one or the other. You can't say 50
Thank you.
units are age restricted and the others are not. You can't do that. What's the next question?
That was it.
Okay. Anybody else? Neil, go ahead.
So, comment on that last point. You showed us that there's at this point in the marketplace, there's not a shortage of housing for seniors. So I'm not sure that I'm that concerned whether seniors use it or not, but I will say, if I make a hotel reservation and they offer me an accessible room, I'm going to say I don't need an accessible room. And if I'm renting an apartment and I don't need an accessible bathroom or side-by-side washer and dryer, I'm probably not going to take it. So the fact that you've got the units designed that way, I expect would segment the marketplace for you. I have a question for staff, though, and we're probably not ready to answer because I think the presentation is a few weeks away, but what's the thinking about a senior center? Are we still thinking about putting a senior center on this site, or are we thinking about something else at this point? Tanisha, do you want to answer that?
Study's still underway.
Sorry?
The feasibility study is still underway.
So what's the timing for that at this point?
We've needed to extend the agreement to allow for some more pro forma work. So I think we're going to extend the agreement 2 weeks, probably November 8th.
Okay, so not like 2 years from now?
No.
Okay. So I think that is an interesting question too. If we still think about putting a senior center right next door, that might change our thinking, but if we're going to put it on Borough Park or something else, it's a whole different ballgame. All right, thanks.
Anybody else before we go to the public? Okay, not seeing it. So this is the time we'd like to hear from anybody from the public on this topic. Same rules as with public comments. State your name and address or neighborhood. Keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. And if you have more than 3 minutes worth of material, then use your 3 minutes and give us the rest in writing. We'll consider it just the same as oral testimony. Do we have anybody who'd like to testify on this application? Come on up.
There you go. Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
David Mullins, Gateway Apartments. I really didn't have a comment on this, but I see there's no YIMBYs in the house to comment on density, and density is coming up, so I feel like I should just be a placeholder here and be like, there's good, we have a housing shortage, there's just good general arguments for more density out there, and as I think I come in, I love subsidized housing, I love affordable housing, but we need more housing in general. I always try to show up and just be here in support of market projects for that reason too, and I think I've been here before when y'all were talking about expanding spectrum, I think there was an idea for like a bridge across parcels and a waiver. So anyways, I'm always here for more market rate, additional, like you're saying, there's other transportation options around. More units is great in a housing shortage. So just throwing that in there since no one else did today. Anyways.
Thank you, David. Do we have anybody else in the room who'd like to testify? If not, I'm going to take a look at our Zoom audience. Not seeing anybody. Okay, let me just.
Excuse me, can I make an observation?
Yeah,
please?
go ahead.
Just an observation. When you say intergenerational, you're talking about a building, but we're also talking about a community. Kentlands, for instance, is intergenerational. Now, they have a senior housing, but it's integrated within the community. Spectrum is a community. Is not the fact that Spectrum has numerous buildings, is that not a community, and is this not going to be part of the Spectrum community?
So one of the things when I say we've learned through this process, yes, the spectrum is intergenerational, and we have had couples with an older parent. We've had 3 generations in 3 different apartments. We have people who have sold their home and are aging in place. So because we manage and know our residents, we know that we are intergenerational, and frankly, it was kind of a surprise to me. And so that's something I've learned in management. I'm surprised by how much of it already exists at the Spectrum. Yes, we don't have a senior housing because the seniors that are living with us are choosing to live in a mixed age community.
So in reality, what you're asking for is just to build another apartment building. And that is, I understand that, I accept that, but this doesn't make it special. This is not a special building. It's just another building that's going to be rented out, just like all the other buildings in Spectrum. And I think there should be a distinction made if we're going to talk about senior housing.
Well,
And I don't see that here.
well, let me, it's an interesting question. I don't know that you have, how many units in the city have roll-in showers? How many folks have in-laws or parents that are in wheelchairs? If you've ever been in a wheelchair or you've been injured and you got to go take a shower or a bath and you have a sore back, if it's a back injury, getting up on top of a tub and swinging your legs around and going back down, a roll-in shower is essential. If you want to, the comment was made, how do you actually develop these things and use them? And the answer is the things that she's explored as she's learned. And there was also a comment made in terms of, I don't want to go into that kind of a hotel. The answer is she's already designed in, and Matthew, you don't have to put the swing down arm, second arm rest in there. You have to put the support in the framing work of it. Then they come in, if they have the need, we install it. So those installations, everybody prefers a side-by-side, but almost all the units pull them out now because they're more expensive. We've actually taken time to redesign and put the HVAC units, they're more expensive, up above so that the units are side-by-side. Twisted it. Not been done before. These units are being designed very specifically so they accommodate the seniors. Now, how do we get the seniors in there? That's a conversation I think that everybody's open to. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So I guess this is a question for staff, because I'm trying to set this up for when we have to offer a recommendation.
Fair enough.
Go ahead.
Before you ask, I just want to say to our Zoom audience, if anybody wants to testify, just use the raise hand button, and I'll get to you after John. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So Kirk or everybody else, if the age restriction that was in place or is in place is only sort of loosely defined because income isn't actually part of that, correct?
That's correct. And
Okay.
even with the age restriction, when staff looked at the schematic development plan approvals, the parking that was provided was really provided at as if it was not age restricted, which implies it was 55 and over. So it wasn't even what we have in the ordinance called, housing for the elderly, which is 62 and over, and then you only have to provide half the parking. So it does appear it was,
So what was, well, I'm going to get to this in a second. If there's no income, what is the trigger for it to be age restricted, simply that there's a policy that nobody under a certain age can lease there. I mean, that's essentially what that would have been back then, right?
Correct, and usually that's, when you look at the other ones in the city, they're usually, it's not that both people, like, let's say it's a couple living there, it's at least one of them has to be 55 and over, or whatever the age restriction is.
Okay. So the applicant seems to be proffering the idea that instead of just a rule, that there's actually incentive for, or there's an attraction to these units because of the accessibility, the mobility conditions, all of those sort of amenities that lead to a more comfortable living environment for somebody that might be older, just kind of in general terms. Can that be part of a revised sketch plan? Can that, instead of saying age restricted, is there something that takes its place that addresses these features that are being offered or being talked about?
I mean, I don't see why not. I would defer to Greg Mann's around, but.
It's great conversations. What I'm leading to is that really where this should land, not just a lot of conversation, then all that stuff goes away. That's kind of what I'm leading to.
Right, but, as a couple of council members have pointed out, just even though you provide these units that are attractive to seniors, there's no guarantee that the older adults will actually rent them. Since they're open to the market, everyone sort of has access.
Understood, and that's my point. I'm not suggesting, I mean, if you take take the actual rule away, having the attraction is a great thing. I mean, just having a rule and it's not particularly any more comfortable for someone who's older really isn't much of an amenity. But if you actually have the amenity there, it could actually be a plus. It could be a win. It could be an improvement to this whole plan. If that's something that can be, and I'm not telling you how to come up with the policy decision, but I'm just asking you if that is where this could land or should land. That's all.
Okay. Jim?
And actually, my question may dovetail into Chairman Bauer's line of questioning, because the way that you're thinking of constructing these, and if the age restriction goes away, one of the things that we heard during the housing element discussions was the need for accessible housing in the city. So this actually does open up a pool of housing that would be accessible, that would not be age restricted, and that is something that we do need in the city. So maybe that is the direction. It becomes more of accessible housing and not age restricted.
Okay, I'm not seeing any comments from
Mr. Mayor,
Zoom.
just
Matt, go ahead.
flush that out just a bit. So 5% accessible units are in the city right now, required by code. Another 5% are probably adaptable, they're type A, adaptable units. So we have essentially 10% of the units in the city now that have been built in the since ADA, right? Which are accessible or adaptable. And so I think the applicant is proposing that their podium floor, which is about a fifth of the building, so it would be 20% of the units. So we're really talking about the difference between 5-10% accessible and 20% accessible. I'd love to see some real numbers. That would help a lot.
Great point.
Thanks for that context. Good. Anyone else? Okay. All right, and just one more look at Zoom. Okay, I don't see any hands up. Let me get to the right screen here. Okay. Well, thank you all for the presentation. You've as I said, put a lot on the table here, and we have some outstanding questions which you guys can get back to us on. We appreciate that. And I'll leave it to the Planning Commission for their record closing recommendation.
Quick kind of straw poll here on the Planning Commission. Outstanding questions aside, and assuming they came back to us as part of our staff report for our recommendation, are you comfortable with the proposed November 20th closing of the record? Any concerns? Okay. Thank you for that. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission make a motion to hold their record open until 5 p.m. on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. That's in 30 days, with a recommendation to the Mayor and City Council tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's not me.
That passes unanimously.
Reflex, sorry.
So there were 4 in favor. None opposed. The rest was just noise. Mr. Mayor.
Oh, there's so many jokes that can happen. Our recommendation is that Mayor and Council hold our record open until 5 p.m. Friday, December 13th, which is 53 days, with anticipated policy discussion and final action on Monday, January 6th, 2025. What is the pleasure of the council?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0. Thank you all very much. To anybody from the public, our record will be open until December 13th, so you have plenty of time to get some comments into us. All right.
Not in the same place. There it is. Yeah, it's 2 steps.
Oh, he's excused.
Is the planning commission excused, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, the planning commission is welcome to stay with us. But
You know, you say that every time.
one night you guys should.
Your executive committee.
Okay, next on our agenda is from the mayor and city council, and tonight we're going to start with Councilmember Neil Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just like to go through a few of the exciting events over the last couple of weeks. First of all, we had another spectacular Oktoberfest. The weather was fantastic. I'd like to give credit to the staff for all the great work that they did in organizing and taking it apart afterward. I watched the crew they actually started assembling at like 5:20 in the morning, which wasn't my favorite thing, but they got it all done in time. And then the cleanup crew at the end with the street sweepers and everything, you wouldn't have known the next day that 30,000 people were wandering around in my neighborhood. So it was a great event. I understand that our mayor had an interesting interaction with our former governor. And it was good to see him and many other candidates there, and a good time was had by all. I had 0 complaints from any attendees, which is always great. It was a fabulous day. Attended the ribbon cutting for our neighborhood deli in Kentlands, which was nice, had a great sandwich. It was a New York style deli, so it was an exceptionally large sandwich, but it was really nice. Good family business. And the other thing I'll mention is Friday morning, former council member and now state delegate Ryan Spiegel and I attended the Northern Virginia Transportation Alliance's annual forum, which this year had speakers from the Maryland Department of Transportation as well as Virginia. We had some really good conversations and good presentations as a way to try to improve transportation and connectivity in the region. Heard a lot from all the great things Virginia is doing, and I wish we heard more great things from what Maryland is doing on that front, but hopefully we'll get there someday. I'll keep it short. That's it for me now. Thanks.
Thank you, Neil. We'll go to Rob.
Ditto.
You have an announcement.
Oh, okay, announcement. City of Gaithersburg is seeking residents to serve on the ad hoc mayor and city council compensation review committee every 4 years. The ad hoc committee is formed and charged with reviewing the compensation of the elected officials of our jurisdictions in the region, examining the current workload of the Gaithersburg mayor and city council, and making recommendations for compensation adjustments as appropriate. The committee is also charged with reviewing and recommending adjustments to stipends for the Planning Commission, Board of Appeals, and Historic District Commission members. The ad hoc committee's recommendations are advisory in nature, and the mayor and city council have the option of accepting, rejecting, or modifying recommendations. It is anticipated that appointments will be made on November 18th, 2024. The committee's recommendations are anticipated to come before the mayor and the city council on March of 2025. To be considered, please send a letter of interest and a resume to Mayor and City Council Services via email at mccservices@gaithersburgmd.gov or to Gaithersburg City Hall, 31 South Summit Avenue, Gaithersburg, Maryland 28877. The deadline for submission is the November 12th, 2024. For more information, please contact Human Resource Director Kim Yocklin, kim.yocklin@gaithersburgmd.gov, 301-258-6327, or visit www.gaithersburgmd.gov.
Well done. Next, we'll go to Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to congratulate staff on another amazing Oktoberfest, and thank you for pouring in the beautiful weather. It was a great event. It always is. And I have an announcement to read. A closed meeting was held in person by the mayor and city council on Monday, October 14th, 2024, at approximately 8:17 p.m. Pursuant to a motion adopted unanimously, the session was proposed to be closed pursuant to the general provisions article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Section 3-305B1I. The appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction. The topic discussed was a personnel matter to conduct the city manager's annual performance review. Present at the meeting were Mayor Ashman, Councilmember Harris, Henderson, Hernandez, McNulty, and Wu. Upon conclusion of the discussion, the closed executive session was adjourned at approximately 10:23 p.m.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll go to Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will echo the comments about Oktoberfest. It was a beautiful day. Had a great time. Last week, I attended virtually the quarterly meeting of the Old Town Advisory Committee. It had been a little bit since we had everybody together. Appreciate the Gaithersburg Police Department providing an update on public safety to the committee. A lot of great questions. I was also able to attend an event at Mayan Monkey, the new restaurant that's opening up in the old Growlers building, and went with my wife for dinner, part of their soft opening. It's very exciting to have that building coming back to life, and I look forward to it being a vital cog in Old Town and becoming a regular there. So congratulations to them, and just finally welcome Woayorm. We're looking forward to working with you. Always good to have a person that has spent time in Philly. So go Owls.
Before we get to Jamil, I got a slight correction from Tanisha. No? No, I want to read it.
Okay.
I think everyone should know it. It says per HUD, it's not all, we were talking about age restriction, and the answer to Jamil's question, it's not all or nothing. To qualify for age restriction, at least 80% of the units must have at least one person age 55 or older living in the unit. But I don't, 80%, that may...
I think we could do more research on this.
We may need some more research because we're not sure if that jives entirely with the Fair Housing Act. Because Councilmember Wu was doing a little research as
That's what the HUD website said. And so, assuming HUD knows what they're doing, that's one of the criteria.
Okay. Well,
I researched the same thing.
Darnell,
It's on the HUD's website. Frank and I were actually texting back and forth during this conversation. So when we need to get to the point for a legal opinion, we'll give you all one.
Yes. Okay. I think we do. We will want the answer to that question. Okay, Jamil, go ahead.
Ditto squared. Thank you.
I like that.
Ditto square. Okay, got it. I had to translate that in my brain for a sec. I want to join everyone in the stunning October. Congratulating staff for stunning Oktoberfest, and congratulations to our neighborhood deli. I want to congratulate Dave and Buster's. They invested in that property and have some new features there that they relaunched the other day, which was really cool. And I'll dovetail on what Jim said about Mayan Monkey. We're waiting for the full open, but I did have a chance to go to one of their soft open events, and it was really good. I'm really promising. Also wanted to congratulate a member of the Gaithersburg, Washington Grove Volunteer Fire Department, Gary Walker, on 60 years. You heard that correctly. 60 years of service. I had a chance to go over there and give him a proclamation for made it Gary Walker Day for 60 years of service to our community at the Volunteer Fire Department. Hasn't been paid a dime for it. It's amazing that what a deal we've got. No, he's a great guy. And gave us a tour of the fire museum, and it was great. So congratulations to him, and I wanted to call everyone's attention to next week. We'll have a work session, which is Monday, October 28th, right here at 16 South Summit. We will be getting a briefing from WorkSource Montgomery, and then we will also be discussing pedestrian safety. That last part we just recently added, given a couple of events unfortunate, terrible events that happened in the city. The next regular meeting of the Mayor Council will be held on Monday, November 4th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. You can participate here in the room or on Zoom as usual. We're going to go, we need to do a motion for a closed executive session. I'm going to turn it over to Neil.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the mayor and city council of the city of Gaithersburg conduct a closed executive session immediately following its session tonight, Monday, October 21st, 2024, pursuant to the general provisions article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Section 3-305B7, to consult with the council to obtain legal advice, and 3-305B1I, the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction. The topics to be discussed are to obtain legal advice on a change in the development requirement at the MedImmune AstraZeneca site, and a personnel matter to conduct the city manager's annual performance review.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0. We will have that right after this meeting. Next, we're going to go to from the city manager.
The hour is late. I will yield my time.
Okay. And I heard from Tom Lonergan Seeger, he's also yielding his time for economic development update. And next is from the city attorney.
I yield my time.
Okay. Anything from any other staff? Okay, not seeing it, then second half of this meeting went really quick.
Who did they yield it to? Jim would like some.
No, I'm good.
Okay, join us next week at our work session on October 28th. Next regular meeting of Mayor and Council on Monday, November 4th. Until next time, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.
Record.